Okay, so good morning, everybody. To those of you in Panama, and good afternoon to those of you in Israel. My name is Zev Lavi. I'm the VP of International Relations at the Federation of Israeli Chamber of Commerce. We're excited to be here today and to do this webinar about Panama and Israel. We have amazing guests, speakers today. And we promise to try to make it short and sweet and as business-like as possible. Today we're going to focus on the business opportunities between Israel and Panama. We want to explore and give this outlook of what Panama has to offer for Israeli companies. A lot of Israeli companies are looking at the Latin America continent. They're mainly focus on the big countries like Brazil, Mexico, and all the usual suspects, as we say. But we found that size doesn't matter, contrary to opposite to contrary beliefs. And we feel that there's many undiscovered opportunities and a great potential for a lot of Israeli companies to do business in Panama. And in order to get access to those opportunities, we brought about the people who are in the forefront of economic diplomacy and the people who are actually helping to promote bilateral trade between both countries. So today we're going to hear a little bit about Panama, about what's the economy like, what's the incentive for companies. But we're also going to talk, we're just also going to understand the political and diplomatic relationships, the economic relationships, and we're going to hear also from people who are on the ground from the Panama-Israel Chamber of Commerce, who are business people who are been in Panama for many years. I want to just do a few rounds of acknowledgement. So first of all, to both embassies, both the Panama embassy here in Israel, to the ambassador, and also to our ambassador, to the Israeli ambassador in Panama. I want to thank you very much for taking your time and spending this morning with us. I also would like to really thank Ambassador Carmen Vergara, who is the Executive Director of Pro Panama. You're going to hear from her a little bit later. Here you go. Here you go. We just can't see you, Carmen. It's a shame. Here you go.
There you go.
Okay, good.
Good job.
Thank you,
Rob. So I want to thank you, and I just want to update everybody that Ambassador Vergara and ourselves have signed an MOU between FICC and Pro Panama just the other week, and we hope that this will become a bridge for companies and connect companies together. And of course, I'd like to thank our very close friends, Daniel Kolbar, from the Director of Bilateral Trade Agreements in the Israeli Ministry of Economy and Industry. He's going to talk a little bit about the Panama-Israel Free Trade Agreement. But the good news here is that Daniel is going away to Japan for the next 4 or 5 years to become the Israeli Commercial Council. So we're going to wish him luck. And of course,
the good news is that I'm going away.
You're going away, but you're going to stay with us very closely because in this age of digitization. And anyway, I'm not going to take long. I want to hand it over to Ambassador Rida Mansour, Dr. Rida Mansour, the Ambassador of Israel to Panama, a very vibrant and an active ambassador. And I'll leave it to you, Ambassador, please.
Thank you. Good morning for everyone in Panama, and good afternoon for everyone in Israel. We are extremely excited to be involved in this webinar today as a continuation of our ceremony this week. And for us here in the embassy, the last year and a half were wonderful positive changes since we signed the free trade agreement and it came to effect. We are very excited to explore together the business opportunities that we have here. For our Israeli friends, I would say that the best way to look at Panama really is that Panama is much more than Panama, the country, because Panama is the center of Central America. And in many ways, it's also a very big center in South America and a great connection between North and South. So when companies think about Panama, they should know that from here they can easily trade in all of Latin America and in the Caribbean. Our embassy here in Panama also is in charge of the South Caribbean. And lately, as you know, Guyana is rising because of all the oil discoveries, and there's a very big changes in the Caribbean generally, very good, positive economic changes. So Panama can be a center with the canal where it makes it easy to move goods to Panama and from Panama to the rest of the region, easy and cheap. And with the airport, the center of Copa Airline, which is the most connected airline in the Americas, we can say, north and south. It gives people who want to come here and explore opportunities a wonderful connection to the entire Latin American region and the Caribbean. So our vision in the embassy is to try and push for that direction. There are already here companies and traders who hold lines of logistic lines through all of Latin America, in the textile business, in technology, in agriculture, and different issues. There are companies here that can be very helpful because they are already doing business from here through the free trade zone as well with the rest of the region. So we hope that slowly we will start to pass enough information for people to see what kind of things they can do here in Panama itself, and what kind of things they can do from Panama to the rest of the region. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador. Thank you very much. And I just want to say that the Israeli embassy, even though that we don't have our commercial consulars by the Ministry of Economy, the Israeli embassy headed by Rida, and there is also a very, very amazing person with us, is Isabel, who works with them. They are definitely at your service. So every Israeli company that would want to do any contact with Panamanian companies, or want to have more information or need the assistance of the embassy, can definitely contact the ambassador and his team. They're, from experience, I can tell you that they're very, very helpful and very efficient. So feel free. We'll send the contact detail later on after this webinar will finish. I just also want to say a bit of a housekeeping before we continue, which is that we can't see the participant or hear the participant. So if you have any question or any remarks, or you just want to say hi, you can use the chat box or the Q&A. It's just on your screen, on the bottom, there is a button of chat and Q&A. You can feel free to ask questions, have your remarks, and we can definitely ask. I see that the ambassador of Panama in Israel is not with us at this moment, unless I'm...
So we have a bit of technical issue. We hope to solve it soon, but let's go ahead and she will go on later on.
Okay, no problem. We'll wait to the ambassador, but we'll definitely continue and go forward with Carmen, so we can maybe skip the slide, and then we'll just ask Ambassador Ms. Carmen Vergara, the Executive Director of ProPanama, to introduce ProPanama and also to show us a bit of a presentation about the opportunities in Panama's economy. So, Carmen, take it away. Good morning.
Thank you so much, and good morning to everyone in Panama, and good afternoon to everyone in Israel. And I think that you have my presentation, so if you could just go ahead and put it up on the screen, then we can get started. And I just want to say thank you so much for this
the only thing I think,
I'm sorry?
Carmen, I think your line is a little bit off. I hope it's not only that I think that maybe your connection is, just try to see if it's okay.
Okay, I think I'm going to shut off my camera, see if it improves.
Yeah.
And again, I
Yeah.
think you have my presentation on the screen. So yes, excellent. Excellent. And I'll just tell you when to move on. And I think this is the end of it. So maybe if we could go to the beginning of it. I think this is the last slide. So if we could go to the first one, please. Yes, exactly. Thank you. So as I was saying, and I hope you can hear me better now, I just want to thank you for the opportunity. And this is the first thing that we do after we signed our agreement on Monday. So we're very excited on the side of Panama and for Panama for the opportunity to speak to all your members about opportunities that they could find in Panama. And so I'll just go very fast on this first part of the presentation, in which I just want to tell you what ProPanama is and what ProPanama does. And we are the national agency for export and investment promotion. We were created last year from an executive decree from the president, and we are part of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And the reason why we're part of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is because we want to use all of our embassies and consulates outside of Panama, all of our foreign service, as part of our investment promotion and attraction endeavor. They will become, or they have become, a part of the promotional effort of Panama. And so all of the members of our foreign service, they do double duty, as they say, because they do all of the political and diplomatic issues of the embassies, but they also do all the commercial and foreign trade issues for ProPanama. And that's the way that we work to cut costs and not have to open offices all over the world. So for you there in Israel, our embassy will be the contact point for anyone who would want more information about investment opportunities in Panama. And now with this agreement with IFCC, also you can go to the chamber and ask for any information that will relate it to us, and we will get it back for you. If we could go to the next slide, please. So this is just Panama at a glance, just for you to have an idea of who we are and how we are. We are located in the center of the American continent and famous for the Panama Canal. But as the ambassador just said, we are much more than just a canal. And as you will see in this presentation, there are many opportunities to be had with Panama, because we also have an extensive community from Israel here that is very integrated into the fiber of our economy and our social life. And so you are all welcome here, and you will feel right at home. You will be able to see some images of Panama during my presentation. And as I've been to Israel at the beginning of this year, I can tell you that some of our cities look very much alike. And we also love the nightlife, and I think that the business climate that you will find here would be very interesting to do business with. If we could go to the next slide. Now, when I make these presentations, one of the first things that I'm always asked is, why Panama? Why, with all of the world's offer out there for me to put my investment at, why would I put it in Panama? And these are just some of the most prominent reasons. But the main reason for me is the fact that all of these characteristics combine in Panama. This is what makes us truly unique, because other countries can claim to have logistic platforms, and I think every country in the world claims they have the best geographic position. And some countries might have a financial banking center or use the US dollar as currency. But all of these characteristics converge in Panama like no other place. that I know of in Latin America. And this makes our offer for investment unique, because you can find all of this and much more here in Panama. If we could go to the next slide, please. Now, we are truly blessed with our geographical position, and it's been proven throughout history the role of Panama in the development of the economies of the world, and the role we played when the discovery of America was done, and the discovery of the Pacific Ocean from Panama, and what that meant for the world. But even before that, when we came out of the ocean and we united the North American continent with the South American continent, which were apart by then, we created a bridge. And if you can see us, we have a physical form almost of a bridge that connected. And we have been connecting the world ever since. And now you can see from the graphic how we connect the sea routes, the air routes, and also the connectivity through telecommunications, because the 7 fiber optic cables that connect all of the American continent with Europe and Asia and the Caribbean go physically through Panama. And there is one more cable that is being built right now from Google, so there will be 8 cables that will connect Panama through the world, or to the world, through telecommunications. So if we could go to the next one, please. But we're also connected through free trade agreements, because even though we're a bridge that connects everyone, we're also aware that our internal market is small. We're 4 million people, so if you compare us to Mexico, maybe we're the size of a neighborhood there, or in China, the same thing. So we are aware that in order for us to grow, we need to have trade agreements and trade with the world. And what that means for investors is that you can trade through our 19 free trade agreements with 61 countries around the world. The biggest economies are covered by those free trade agreements, and you have a potential of 1.3 billion consumers that you can go to from Panama. If you produce in Panama, you can use all of the prerogatives that these free trade agreements, incentives that these free trade agreements give to products made in Panama to enter any of these markets around the world. And we're constantly broadening this base. We are in the midst of approving the free trade agreement with Korea. So that will be another country that you could access with special promotions from Panama. Next. And we are a very sustainable country in terms of our economics. We have always grown better than most of the economies in the world, and we've maintained this level of growth throughout the years. Before 2010, we were growing in 2 digits, and then because of the economic crisis, we started going down, but we have always been higher than the ratio of Latin America and Caribbean. As you can see, Panama is the blue line that you see there, so we've maintained ourselves with North America and the Eurozone and grown over Latin America and the Caribbean projections for all of these years. Of course, we had a projection to grow between 4 and 5% next year, but with the COVID, we are reevaluating, as I'm sure everybody in the world is doing, the GDP growth. But we think that because of all of the characteristics that Panama has, we are going to bounce back faster maybe than Latin America as a whole. Next, please. And this is just for you to have an idea of our share percentage of the GDP and where the economic activities of Panama are concentrated. And of course, commerce is the first because we are known as a service-based economy. with over 80% of our GDP going to commerce, to services. So services-based activities, as you can see, are the ones that are ranking higher in the share percentage of our GDP. That's not to say that we are not doing efforts to grow other sectors like agriculture, which is currently 2% of our GDP, and that only gives us room to grow. So we're very excited because we know that there are many business opportunities from Israel in the agricultural sector towards Panama, and we will see those in a moment. So next, please. This is just for you to have an idea of who are our main markets for growing or expanding the exports in Panama. And as you can see, it's a mix of countries all over the world that you can access from Panama that we have been selling to, and these are our main countries for export during the past 5 years. Next. Now here we start getting into it with the information from Israel. And as you can see by the 2019 statistics, what we export to Israel is nearly nothing in terms of what we import from Israel. So we want to see this figure grow through the years, applying the free trade agreement, of course, and all of the incentives that it gives for different activities in the production of goods and services to export to Israel. But we also want to see the import column grow, because even though it's higher than the exports, it's lower than it should be. And that also only means for us that there is a lot of room to grow these figures into more businesses from each side. Next, please. And here you will see the most important goods that Israel exports to Panama in the percentage that they are exporting them, and also the potential products we can offer to Israel that we could export under the free trade agreement with special incentives. And we think that this also brings an opportunity for companies in Israel to invest in Panama in these sectors, because there is a market in Israel for these products. And so we can produce them here and export them to Israel under the free trade agreement. And it could be, as I said, a good business opportunity for Israel to look at into doing in Panama. Next, please. We are working with the Ministry of Agriculture in developing strategic action plans for export, and we are doing it with specific products. These are the ones that the Ministry of Agriculture has already developed for cacao, pineapple, plantain, papaya, watermelon, dragon fruit, and melon. And we think all of these fruits in different presentations, whether it is the fresh fruit or a processed kind of development of one of these or all of these fruits, would be very interesting for the Israeli market. Next, please. And these are the action plans that we are now working on through the Ministry of Agriculture. And as you can see, there are many products here that also could be interesting to Israel, like turmeric or, I'm sorry, it went away. So, but you have the presentation there. I was saying mango and ginger, which would be very interesting for the Israeli market also. Now, next, please. As we all know, we have this free trade agreement that entered into action next year in the second semester. And so under the trade agreement, we have specific treatments or special treatments for the export of some goods and services, and also a protection for investments made between the two countries. And this is the basis of the offer that we have with Israel, the fact that we have this free trade agreement, gives you the peace of mind that you would need to do a long-term investment of any kind, whether it is to export to Panama or to invest in Panama. Next. These are some of the companies, and just some of the companies, because there are many more, from Israel that have already invested in Panama. And they are our best presentation card, because you can ask these companies what it is like to do business in Panama, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they can tell you everything that they have gone through and how they are doing in Panama and why they chose Panama in the first place. So here you have a few examples of companies that you can contact and ask for more information if you should need it about business climate and doing business with Panama. Next, please. Now, going into the investment potential, we have identified through careful scrutiny from the treaty and also from the areas that we have in common with Israel that we think that could be interesting to promote investments. The agricultural sector, adding technology to it, technology and innovation for our digital hub, everything having to do with cyber tech and cybersecurity and all of these things that Israel is very good at. Education, applying technology again, because now with COVID, I think every country in the world has gone through a change in the education patterns, and now we are obligated to use technology for education more than ever before, I think. And so this is an area where I think we would benefit very much from investments from Israel, as well as light manufacturing, and this includes pharmaceutical companies, companies developing any type of cleaning products or healthcare products or digital products that could be made from Panama to then be re-exported to the Latin American market and have the hub here in Panama for manufacturing and redistribution. And then, of course, using the distribution and logistics center of Panama for companies in Israel to make us the headquarters for their operations for Latin America and the Caribbean. Next one, please. So let's start with agriculture. And these are some of the things that we have identified that we would like to have in the agricultural sector in the mid and long term. Companies with precision farming and livestock and smart agriculture applied to the whole sector. Of course, control environment agriculture and genetics and biotechnology and blockchain for traceability and agricultural intelligence. And all of these things, as we had the opportunity to, as I said, visit Israel at the beginning of this year, we saw in your ministries and institutions and research centers. And so we think that there is an excellent opportunity for technology from Israel to come into Panama and transform the agricultural sector for exports. Next. The digital hub. This is based on the 7 fiber optic cables that we saw at the beginning of the presentation. That gives us 100% of the regional internet traffic, 97% of the international voice traffic, and 90% of data transmission. But because we are also a country that is blessed because of the geographic position, we are almost free of natural disasters. So for companies that are intensive in the use of data, like data warehousing or Internet of Things, this is the place to be. We have enacted a law in the second semester of last year under this administration that protects the personal data that you house in any warehouse in Panama. So It cannot be interfered by the government for any reason, and that gives you full protection of the information that you would have in Panama. And from here, you can handle operations for Central America and the Caribbean because of the coverage of these 7 fiber optic cables. Next. We last year enacted also a law to promote public-private partnerships, and we've never had this before. This is the first time that we have a proactive law to have a portfolio of investments that we can put out there and attract investors through specific projects that have been planned by Panama. We are now in the midst of building up this portfolio, but we are going to have very big and important projects in infrastructure, mainly roads, and in the areas of telecommunications, energy, revamping public buildings, everything having to do with water treatment, which is very important for us in Panama because, as you know, the Panama Canal runs on water. So the water that's needed for the operations of the canal and also needed for the quality of life of Panamanians and for the use of the industrial sector is very important. So anything having to do with water treatment, and there will be several projects under that and also on the ports. So if you are a company interested in knowing the portfolio of projects from the public-private partnership, just contact the embassy or IFCC, and we will be very happy to send it to you and send you any information, any more information that you would need on any of the projects that are under that portfolio. Next. Now, the energy sector is also very important to us. Energy projects will also go into the public-private partnership portfolio of projects. And as you can see, we have a matrix here that is not as diversified as we would want, even though we have investments in, I think, all kinds of green energy from natural gas, wind, solar, biogas, but still we are very much dependent on fuel, and this is something that we would like to reverse and go more into renewable energies like we had done with hydropower. And here again comes the water treatment aspect, because this water that is used to produce energy is also water needed for the operation of the canal and for the other companies and the people that live in the city of Panama. So all of these sectors have many investment opportunities in different areas. Next. And just to finish it off, I just wanted to say that Panama has over 50 investment incentive laws. For any kind of endeavor that you can think of, I think we have an incentive law. So these are some of the most well-known ones that guide the investment motors that we have in our economy. But if you don't see your particular kind of business reflected in any of them, let us know what you would like to do, and I'm sure that we will find a law that will give you incentive for that particular activity. So we have a film law that gives incentives for productions, but also for the installation of movie studios here in Panama to produce constantly content for the film industry. And this is something that right now that the world is confined at home. Producing content and new content, it's very good business. So we have their incentives, fiscal, migratory, and labor incentives for those who would like to do those activities in Panama. Then we have the City of Knowledge for research and development, for environmental development, for creative cultures and industries. So if you are in that area of the economy and you would like to know more about the incentives of the City of Knowledge, one of the things that is interesting about this law is that you don't have to be in a specific place in the country in order to receive the benefits from the law. If you qualify, you can have your investment anywhere in our country and still get the incentives from the City of Knowledge. And then we, of course, have the laws that give incentives to production in Panama, which are the Panama Pacific Law, the Free Zones Law, and to some extent, the Colón Free Zone Law. The Colón Free Zone is the largest free zone in this hemisphere, second only to Hong Kong in the world. But these are 400 hectares that offer specific incentives, not for manufacturing, but for pre-packaging and re-exporting of goods. In Panama Pacifico and in the free zones, you can have these incentives, but for manufacturing, for light manufacturing, for logistics services, for assembly, for any kind of high-tech or electronic processing or manufacturing. So pharmaceutical goods, anything that you can think that you can make from Panama and then re-export through our logistics services center to Central America, the Caribbean, or Latin American markets. And that leaves me with the regional headquarters law. Next, please. And this is the end of my presentation. I just wanted to share with you that we have a regional headquarters law that allows you to have the headquarters of your company here and gives you fiscal, migratory, and labor incentives. We have over 150 companies that have already believed in this law and put their regional headquarters in Panama. And as you can see, we have companies from all over the world, even from Australia. So if this is something that interests you, we can also give you more information on the regional headquarters law. It's one of our most successful investment attraction laws. So we would be very happy to see more Israeli companies here in Panama with regional headquarters. So this is the end of my presentation, and I hope it was helpful for you to understand the many opportunities that you could find in Panama for investments and for exports or imports of goods. And if you have any questions, I will be here at your service, or you can channel them through the embassy or through the Federation of Chambers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Thank you very much for this very, very, very professional and detailed presentation. And I think one of the questions that came up in the chat is whether we can share this presentation with the people after. So if you will give us
yes, of course, it is yours. Okay, you have it over there, so you can use it or parts of it or.
Amazing. Thank you. So Rotem, once we finish this presentation, we will share the presentation with everybody. So thank you very much. And there was another question, by the way. I'm going to refer it to all panelists as promised, whether there's a company here who asks if we can, if Pro Panama or someone here could help them with reaching out to the Panama Canal authorities, and I assured them that between the embassy and Pro Panama and the Panama Israel. Yeah, okay. So here's the question. So Uri, we will give the emails of the embassy, of the Panama Israel Chamber of Commerce and the Ministry of Economy, and of course Carmen will give the email, so you can definitely email and request, and you can also contact Rotem. By the way, I haven't introduced Rotem. Rotem, are you online? I'm just Rotem works with me. She's basically behind the scenes. She's doing the heavy lifting here. And Rotem she's working with me at the chamber, and she's here she is. So Rotem is in charge of our Latin America market, and anything that you need in Latin America or in Africa, you can contact Rotem, and she will be more than happy to help. So, Rotem, thank you very much for organization and controlling everybody behind the scenes. Thank you, and we'll go forward to our new commercial counselor in Japan. But until then, the director of bilateral trade and free trade agreements, Daniel, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Zeev and Rotem, dear colleagues and ambassadors. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for organizing. So I'm going to take a few minutes to just talk a little bit about the free trade area agreement and a little bit about the Ministry of Economy and Industry, Foreign Trade Administration, our work for those who perhaps don't know what we do in order to help the Israeli industry. And so I'm going to share a screen, a little presentation, and hopefully you can all see the slides. So here we go. By the way, we didn't talk about it. Shall I do it in English or in Hebrew? My slides are in Hebrew. You tell me. Zeev, you're on mute.
I think you should, maybe we'll continue with the English really quickly.
Okay, make it easier for the slides to be in Hebrew, but
no worries. Just so whatever you feel like, it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So we'll basically the Foreign Trade Administration. We are a unit in the Ministry of Economy, and we are our job is to together with our partners to promote exports. We do it through a number of instruments. One of them is a network of commercial attachés. You can see the map here in front of you. All the red dots is where we have an office, so about 50 offices. And well, Zeev mentioned Japan, so that's where I'm going to. I'm planning to be in a few months from now. And previously, by the way, I was in Brazil. Some of the time, at least I think about a year or a bit more, with our esteemed, distinguished ambassador and friend Reda Mansour, who's now in Panama. So we were together there. And then just showing off here a little bit in numbers in terms of what we do, again, together with our partners like the Chamber of Commerce, Export Institute and others, we operate lots of delegations, hundreds, and look after a lot of queries from companies. And we look at success stories as well. At the end of the day, we want to show and we want to contribute to business development. Now, within the Foreign Trade Administration, I look after bilateral trade agreements. So that's trade policy topics. I've been doing that, well, except for the 4 years I was in Brazil. So I've been doing that for 6 years, as I celebrate 10 years now, this month actually, in the ministry. And so what we do is we aim to create and maintain an infrastructure of agreements that will be efficient and support the industry, provide access to markets that are important and that have potential. And that's the context that we're going to talk about, the free trade agreement. You can see here other FTAs. I really like the map of FTAs that the previous speaker presented. We're going to adapt that also, the combination of the map and flags. That's much nicer than this one. But we also have less FTAs actually, if I compare it to Panama. But as you can see, we're working hard to expand the network. And Panama was the first FTA that entered into force this year. 1st of January, actually, 2020, is following the completion of ratification of the agreement in Panama. But also I can take the opportunity that to announce that our FTA with Colombia, although this is not about Colombia, but since we talk about FTAs in Latin America, next month we'll have an entry into force of an agreement that was actually negotiated and concluded way before the negotiations with Panama even started, but the Panamese were quicker to ratify the agreement, and it entered into force sooner. But you can see that we are focusing on Asia now, China, Vietnam, India, and the Eurasian Economic Union. That's Russia, Belarus, Armenia, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan, and Guatemala as well, and Latin America. So let's talk about the FTA with Panama. We have a nice picture here. You can see some familiar faces standing behind. That's when the agreement was signed just about 2 years ago. And our previous minister is signing it together with his counterparts. And so basically this agreement has some advantages. I can tell you that FTAs traditionally, so we started signing FTAs in the 70s, 80s, 90s. They focused only on trading goods, basically providing concessions to customs. So not so much dealing with non-trade barriers or services, etc. But now in this agreement is the first bilateral agreement that entered into force that actually covers services, covers investments. So it's what we call a comprehensive agreement. So we're very happy about that. Also, the rules of origin are quite flexible, which is something that is good for the industry to have. Well, here is just an outline of the different chapters of the agreement. By the way, this is what it looks like. So it's quite a large agreement. These negotiations, they do take time, sometimes several years or many years. So it is a lot of hard work. And I should say that it's not only us here at the ministry. We have colleagues from other ministries, such as the Ministry of Agriculture, Foreign Affairs, the Customs Administration, Justice, Finance, and of course, together with the industry, we're negotiating these agreements. So I want to just zoom into the annexes that are most relevant when we talk about the exports of goods. So these are the concessions of the goods. For example, if we export any product that is industrial to Panama, well, it's going to be duty-free. But it could be duty-free already, and it could be duty-free within 10 or 15 years. Well, that depends on which category or staging category it is contained in the agreement. So the agreement lists that. I'm going to show you a little bit how to look at that and for some examples. But of course, you always, I'm happy to answer any questions about that. So the way the agreement was done, there's an annex that was split basically into 2B, 2C, and 2D. So that's depending on the product. If it's an industrial product, well, then it falls under the HS classification 25 to 97. And then all these products are going to be duty-free, but most are actually already duty-free when the agreement entered into force, but some are gradually being reduced. So the table provides for information on that. Whereas for products of chapters 3 and some of 16, these are fish and products of fish. Well, there are more limited concessions there, and there is a positive list of products. So the products that are on the list, well, they get a concession, and if it's not on the list, then there's no concession. And the same goes for the fresh agriculture and processed agricultural products or food. So that in this table you can see it's basically 2B for industry, 2C for fish, and 2D for food and agriculture. And then there are sections. If it's import from Panama to Israel, it's section A, and if it's export, it's section B. I know it looks complicated, but I can't take credit for negotiating this agreement, by the way, since it was done when I was in Brazil. But once you know how to locate your product, then what you could just find it, and you can see which category it is in. If it's B3, so it's going to be 3 gradual elimination phase out stages, right? And if it's 5, then it's in 5 stages, 7, 10, 15, etc. And Same goes for fish, but there we have less categories. We just have like A if it's going to be duty free once the agreement enters into force, and then B5 it's gradual in 5 years. Q is something that we don't have for industrial products. That's mostly what we call a quota or a TRQ. That's a bit of a jargon. Tariff rate quota. So that means that there's a limited capacity, and then one can import at a reduced or duty-free within the quota. That's what we call in Hebrew miksa. So that was for fish, and the same goes for agriculture. That's quite similar in that sense. So let's look at a case study. I took an interesting product that I don't think we export, possibly. I didn't really check. But it was quite in high demand at the beginning of the coronavirus. So we take toilet paper, for example. We want to export it into Panaama. So we need to check what's the HS code of that product. And there it is in front of you. It's 481810. And then we have to look at which category it falls under. So in this case, it's C10. And you can see in this table, basically I highlighted the titles, right? So you can see Panama's code, 2017, the description of the product. The rate is the current rate, right? So that's the general rate. That's what we would have paid if we had no agreement. So I think that's 10%. I have to move my picture. And then it's category C10. So basically it means that instead of paying 10%, right now it would be 9%. Because we are after one reduction, and the next year is going to be 8, and then 7, and eventually it's going to be 0. So you have a table here that can help out understanding for each category when it's going to be duty free. Also, and lastly, in order for a product to enjoy the concession, it needs to be considered originating in Israel or in Panama. In other words, you cannot import a product, say, from a third country and produced there and then ship it from Israel to Panama and enjoy the benefits of the agreement. That doesn't work. It needs to be a product that is made in Israel or made in Panama. And that has to do with the rules of origin. These are sets of rules that are defined in the agreement that basically say when a product is considered Israeli or for Panama. So for that, there's a certificate of origin that the exporter or the producer signs, and then the customs authority in Israel sign as well. Similar to other FTAs that we have, it's of course duty free, and then it's being added to the other export documents. It is basically to say that the product is originating in Israel. And that's something that needs to be added to the shipment. But mostly the people who deal with export, they're familiar with these processes, especially the custom agents, etc. So in this slide, there's just a little print screen of our current website that includes basically the text of the agreement and other information that one would need in case they would like more information. And of course, we are here as well. So feel free to contact myself or any of my colleagues. You have the email here as well in front of you. And in the presentation, which you will also be receiving the link directly to this page. So with that, I will just conclude. Yeah. And again, thank you all for being here, and thank you guys from the chamber to host it. I'm afraid I will not be able to stay until the end. So I don't know if there's I can get one question. Yeah, if not, you can maybe forward the questions to me. That'll be okay.
Yeah. So what we will do is we can also also share your email, so if there's any specific questions, because but the one of the, first of all, thank you, Daniel. You really very detailed and comprehensive presentation, so thank you for that. And I know that you have a very, even though that you're going to Japan, your heart is with Latin America. So
always,
you have a
always.
very strong passion.
Right.
There was a few requests of sharing this information in English. I don't know if you have it. I don't know if you could, if you can prepare it especially. But
sure.
I know that part of it you have in English. So we'll talk later offline, and we'll see how we can share those stuff.
Yeah, sure. That's not a problem.
Easily.
That's not a problem.
Okay, thank you very much. And Daniel, have a safe drive all the way back to Tel Aviv from Jerusalem. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
And thank you very much, Daniel. So we'll continue to our last bit, and today with us is Mr. Ilan Schatz. He's the former president of the Panama Israel Chamber of Commerce. He's going to talk a little bit about how to do business in Panama. But I just want to acknowledge Mr. Salvador Avidan Catan, who is the current president of the Panama Israel Chamber of Commerce. And Salvador, thank you very much for being here with us. And Ilan, I'll let you introduce yourself and take it from here.
Okay. So hi, good morning for the Panamanians and good afternoon for the Israelis. My name is Ilan Schatz. I'm the founder of Grupo Aura. Today we are the biggest group in the City of Knowledge, Ciudad del Saber. That during the presentation that we just received, you saw it. I would like to speak about a little bit the Israelis' experience and Israeli position in Panama, because there was a lot of question about really which companies are already active in Panama and what already be done in Panama. So I just want to mention a few companies, and then just to take an example, an interesting example. The establishment of Selena hostels that grew up to be almost a unicorn started in Panama. Radwell Company and Rad Binat have great position in Panama. Checkpoint, Mer Group with 911 project, LR Group, Audio Courts in telecommunication, and of course in the real estate in Panama that led by companies named Dekel and Terra, that we estimate that more than $100 million been invested in Panama. Currently, I'm located in a place called Playa Venao. This is a beach that is located around in the north of Panama. I want to take it as an example for the ecosystem. And why I'm taking this as an example. This entire place, and you can see behind it, I'm right now in the co-working of Selena in this area. This entire beach is developed by Israelis. So this place wasn't exist. It wasn't a village. It wasn't something that already been built. So a group of Israelis bought it a few years ago, and literally everything that is happening in this beach, the restaurants, the hotels, the real estate, the development, it's done by Israelis. So right now there is around like 80 Israelis that lives here. Because of the COVID, we cannot move out. So I've been able to really come here with my family. And it's a great example for the condition that there is in Panama. I think that for Israelis, Panama, it's a very appealing. There is a lot of similarity. I think that for us, that we grow up in the environment of collaboration in Israel, small place, we know each other. When we came to Panama, we find a lot of this here. So it allows us to develop ourselves. And I'm going from the real estate and hotels as happening in Venao up to Ciudad del Saber, where I established my group. So the beauty of being in Panama is a similarity on the DNA of the Israeli companies. It's very easy to start. It's very easy to move on. I saw someone is asking to meet with the Panama Canal authorities. To get meetings in Panama, it's the easiest way. It's not like in Israel, like, you know, if you want to come to get to a ministry, it's a little bit more complicated. It's easier to meet with the decision maker. But it's a very important thing to say that in order to succeed in Panama and use Panama as a base, like we just present, local, you have to have boot on the ground. It's very difficult, and I saw a lot of Israeli companies failing by just flying down here great meeting, restaurants, nice offices, and then go back. And it's just going down. So I highly recommend it for anyone that wants to look in Panama, because Panama, it's a place to start. It's a great place to start. We started in Panama, now we have operation in Colombia and Ecuador, in Costa Rica and Brazil. Panama, it's the easiest place to start because it's a gate for Latin America. That is the most Western country in Latin America. So it's very easy to just start in and going into. But boot on the ground, it's not like a touch and go. It's very important to really focus here. And once you do it, the market, the local market is not big, right? It's economy of $70 billion, but still, it's a $70 billion market with less players. So there is money here. There is possibility to make really nice project. GES, they did an amazing distillation. They convert the salt water in Tabog Island. IC Power of the Offer family have the power station here. There is money here. Very easy to start, very easy to expand. Have to focus on being here. So this is my 3 minutes of my personal opinion.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ilan. I think it's great. First of all, I love it that you work with from Selena and you're like in a beach right now. And I wish you could have shared us the beach. This is what we're going to get a little bit of jealous. But, first of all, there was a question saying you've been speaking a lot about opportunities for businesses, but what are the opportunities for entrepreneurs? I mean, I'm not sure how to take it, but maybe you will have...
Okay, I can share from my personal opinion. So in 2016, I created like incubator in Panama and I started investing only on high tech and just example. So we have an online supermarket that started in Panama. And of course, because of the COVID, it's really grown like almost 10 times. For entrepreneurs, Panama, it's a little bit tricky. Mainly for the raising money. On that, Panama, it's not there yet. I know that the current government is doing huge effort in order to bring more funds. But Ciudad del Saber, City of Knowledge, what it provides you? One, it's provide tax-free environment. So for us, it's Israeli company, you need to pay almost 40% taxes in the end of the day. Establishment in City of Knowledge, it's tax-free, it's huge benefit. And second, the possibility to hire unlimited foreigner. So in case that there is Israelis that want to come in, so it's very easy to get visa. So if we're looking about the umbrella that the City of Knowledge provide, it's the best infrastructure, almost the best infrastructure for innovation in Latin America. There is some investment, but for entrepreneur, mainly the thing is to start, it's money. In the tech industry, it's more difficult. In the real estate, on other economy, it's easier. But my personal experience, City of Knowledge, it's a heaven, really. It's an amazing platform to just start a tech business.
Yeah, and Ilan, let us talk a little bit about the Jewish community there. I mean, is there kind of like a let's say a landing pad for Israelis who are coming? Do you have some sort of a kind of like camaraderie between the Israelis and the Jewish community there? Is it how does it, because different countries has different vibes in that sense?
There is 20,000 Jews in Panama, divided to few communities. I think that for Israelis to mix with the Jewish community, it really depends on the Israelis. So, and definitely the Jewish community here is very powerful, very connected, and it's an amazing platform. It's a very warm community, and I know that there is some Israelis that comes to Panama and said, hey, we heard that the Jewish community is very closed, but if you already come with this approach, so the community will be closed. But in my case, I got married with a daughter that born here in Panama from the Jewish community. I feel completely integrated the Jewish community, and in parallel integrated to the Israelis that are not connected to the Jewish community. Gotcha. It's great. You know what is beautiful in Panama? You really feel Yom Kippur, and you really feel Rosh Hashanah, because everything just shut down. So it's such a small place. I think maybe it's the only place in the world that the Jewish holidays, we feel it almost, it's the closest as we can get to Israel.
That's nice. So we're gonna get some more questions, and we're gonna also thank you, Ilan, for your remarks. And at this point, I just wanna also mention the fact that we have Ambassador, the Panamese ambassador to Israel with us on the line. Unfortunately, due to technical problem, we can't have her on. But we hosted her at the chamber a few days ago, and I know that she's doing a great job here in Israel with her team. So at this point, if there is any questions, we'll get them now. If not, we're a little bit off time, so we can definitely conclude. And I just want to say again that we will share the information of all the speakers at this point right after the presentation. I'd like to also again thank Rotem Assad from my team, who's behind the scene, who've been orchestrating this presentation and this webinar. So as I mentioned, we gave I think a very valuable information here to all parties about what's happening between Israel and Panama, and about the opportunities in Panama. I think Carmen did a great job showing us the really opportunity in the economy in Panama, and I appreciate Ilan for your input. And again, I think it only shows that you have a lot of organizations who are willing to help. So any Israeli companies who are here on with us on the line, if you really want to do your first steps in Panama, you have plenty of organizations that you can contact, whether it's the Panama embassy here, whether it's our embassy in Panama, or whether it's the Pro-Panama organization, or the Panama Israel Chamber of Commerce. A lot of organizations are here to assist and to support bilateral businesses. Again, Ambassador Rita and the Panama ambassador here in Israel, I don't know if she's hearing us, Isabel, Ilan, Salvador, Daniel, everybody, thank you very much for being with us today. And with that, we can conclude, and we can say very healthy and peaceful weekend to everybody, and Shabbat Shalom next tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Ciao, thank you.
And thank you, Rotem.